As the legal battle over Trump's travel ban plays out, constitutional lawyer Bruce Fein is joining us to try and walk us through all of this. There are going to be these arguments over the phone, but kind of walk us through. What's going to happen after that? How quickly can they rule?
Well, oftentimes they could rule what's called from the bench even before they actually write an opinion.
Is that likely?
I don't think so. I think that they'll at least take 24, 48 hours because they know that what they do is likely to be reviewed by the U.S. Supreme Court, so they want to collect their thoughts and make the case as strongly as they can. I would expect that the losing party, and I believe that the president's got an uphill battle, would then seek immediate review in the United States Supreme Court on an expedited basis. Because remember, each day that elapses, as we speak today, as you pointed out, we're having immigrants and refugees from these 7 countries come in. Nothing's happened. If the sky is falling, how come nothing's happened? So it undermines the case that the president is making. And moreover, the president today said that the media doesn't cover terrorist incidents, and that's why we don't know about it, which is going to raise eyebrows by the judges. Third, the president has now twice attacked personally federal judges, district judge in Washington and then one in California, Mexican-American. And it will look to the judges, if they back down and go for the president, they have been intimidated. Well, you know, no one likes to look like they're cowed by pressure. And last thing, you did omit a couple of things that happened today. John Yoo, who is the chief lawyer, who the architect of the torture programs, the electronic surveillance, the limitless power in the Bush administration, today has a column in the New York Times saying even this is too far for him, who's about as far out as you get on executive power. And his column was complimented by Michael Hayden, who is CIA director, NSA director, also saying this is hurting the United States. So there's not a whole lot out there defending the president. The last observation I would make, having been in the government for 12 years and knowing how the cases on national security get assembled, we don't have any affidavit. There's nobody from the expert agencies out there defending the president. If you look on the weekend news shows, is there anybody from the Department of Homeland Security, State Department, Justice Department, or defending the president? No, they're White House people. There's the press secretary. So the judges look at this as, this looks a little bit odd, because the statutory language says that the president must make a finding that the presence of these immigrants and refugees would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, which means something. Well, who's saying it's detrimental? Where's the evidence? As was pointed out in the prior report, of the 7 countries that are listed, not a single national has done anything mischievous in 17 years. Even
the district judge presented that argument to the Justice Department representative in court, who was kind of flummoxed. This issue before the appeals court, as I see it now, and tell me if I'm wrong, is basically about the suspension of this. So at some point, it's the constitutionality of this executive order itself. Is that what goes before the Supreme Court? Where do you see that entering into all this?
I think that's correct, but not the complete story. Because remember, there's basically 2 elements, it seems to me. One element is the president doesn't unilaterally have power to decide to suspend an immigration statute. Because remember, all these people who got the visas and were given refugee status, they complied with federal law as written by Congress. So he was able to argue that he could suspend their presence only because another statute said if you find it would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, you could suspend their entrance. But even if he did it consistent with the statute, and I don't think he did, but assume he did, there still raised other constitutional questions. For example, the Constitution clearly forbids the government from recognizing preferential treatment for people based upon religion. Free exercise clause, establishment clause. And although there's nothing in the statute itself or the executive orders that say that, the president has said we will give preference to Christians, minority religions, in administering the immigration laws. Well, are you creating an establishment of religion? You're creating Christianity in preference to other religions. That's a constitutional problem, assuming it gets past the statutory one. And then there's a second argument that, well, what you've really done here is you've taken people's liberty interests that were created by the United States in giving them visas and refugee status, and then you've revoked them with no due process. You just yanked them. And it's one thing to say you don't have a right to get a visa, but once you've been given it, the government can't pay, switch and bait tactics and say, now you don't have it anymore.
Well, Nathan had this piece about the Aziz family. You know and I know that there's the court of law and there's the court of public opinion. Is he likely to lose in both?
I think he's likely to lose in both. At least as of today, a majority of Americans believe, one, we will be made less safe by the executive order than more safe, and two, they don't support it. So I think that I think this is very risky for the president, because he's gone out on a limb and said, oh, if we permit these people to enter, we're going to suffer horribly. There'll be blood on the hands of the judiciary. What happens if nothing happens? He looks like the boy who called wolf too often. Mm-hmm. And this is early on in the administration. That will be his signature. It will very much cripple his ability to operate, I think, in this area down the road.
Bruce, thanks so much for coming in. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Great to see you again.